we go now. All right, TDA practice. Let's get into it. This week, the climax in a story is when the central conflict or rising action is solved. Analyze how plot and theme relate to one another and Thank You Ma'am by Langston Hughes and use evidence from the text to support your answer. Let's talk about that word climax real quick. All right, it refers to plot overall, right? Plot begins with the exposition. That's where the story is set and the main characters, right? Could be a forest, could be someone's backyard during a horror movie or something. Could be a kingdom, right? Look at that. Whoa, right? Then you have your conflict, right? The little bad guy squid or fish are trying to get Mario. The first conflict might not be the biggest conflict, right? The biggest conflict in a story is something called the rising action, right? You have a scheming uncle killing the king, either in Hamlet or in The Lion King, right? You have Bowser taking the princess, and that sort of dictates the rest of the story, right? That's the biggest problem in the story. So then after that, when we solve that biggest problem, right, that's the climax. So the climax is when Simba confronts his father's murderer, boom. Or when Hamlet confronts his father's murderer, murders him, right? Or Mario says, you know what? I'm taking the princess back. That's it. And then all of a sudden, we've got our climax. So the climax of a story is when the biggest problem in the story gets solved. And usually we learn from that moment what the theme or the life lesson of the story is. Don't mess with Mario. Don't be an evil, scheming lizard man, right? Don't murder your brother. Don't take over kingdom and act shady. So the climax in the story is when the central conflict is solved. Analyze how plot and theme relate to one another and Thank You Ma'am, right? So we're going to be looking at the relationship between plot and theme, what we're supposed to learn. Use evidence from the text to support your answer. Directions: read the text for the first time, annotate along the way. Got you. Background: in this story, published in 1958, Roger, the protagonist or main character, really wants a pair of blue suede shoes. This particular fashion item became popular after Carl Perkins released his hit song Blue Suede Shoes in 1956. Elvis Presley also famously covered the song in the same year. Right? So I'm looking at it was published in 1958. The song came out 2 years earlier, and that's when Langston Hughes, the author, got a chance to be inspired, or that at least that's the question I might have, right? Is that what inspired the story, the song, right? What we're thinking of is, all right, we're looking at plot, right? And what's telling us about plot? What the protagonist wants, right? The conflict is the protagonist, the main character, Roger, can't get what he wants. Blue suede shoes. So let's read it. She was a large woman with a large purse that had everything in it but hammer and nails. It had a long strap, and she carried it slung across her shoulder. It was about 11 o'clock at night, dark, and she was walking alone when a boy ran up behind her and tried to snatch her purse. The strap broke with the sudden single tug the boy gave it from behind. But the boy's weight and the weight of the purse combined caused him to lose his balance. Instead of taking off full blast as he had hoped, the boy fell on his back on the sidewalk and his legs flew up. The large woman simply turned around and kicked him right square in his blue jean sitter. Then she reached down, picked the boy up by his shirt front, and shook him until his teeth rattled. I'm loving everything about this opening. All right, for sure. We already have a plot going. And what's the plot? Somebody is trying to take this poor old lady's purse, right? Tried to snatch her purse. Oh no, right? What does she do? She lets him have it, right? She kicks him in his sitter, and then she picks him up off the ground and shakes him until his teeth rattle, right? And my question is, how did grandma get so strong? I'm loving it. After that, the woman said, "Pick up my pocketbook, boy, and give it here." She still held him tightly, but she bent down enough to permit him to stoop and pick up her purse. Then she said, "Now, ain't you ashamed of yourself?" Firmly gripped by the shirt front. Oh, I'm seeing the shirt front grip here, and I'm seeing the grip right here. The woman said, "Well, what did you want to do it for?" The boy said, I didn't aim to, she said. You a lie. By that time, two or three people passed, stopped, turned to look, and some stood watching. If I turn you loose, will you run? Asked the woman. Yes'm, said the boy. Well, that's another conflict, right? Number one, why would you turn him loose? That's kind of what if I turn you loose, like I wouldn't even ask that question. Maybe I'm not as generous or nice. Let's see. The problem is that he might run away. So when we talk about conflict, and that we're talking about plot, right? That's how the story works. That's how it runs. So take a look. If I turn you this way, you run. Yes, I will. Then I won't turn you loose, said the woman, and she did not release him. What she said, I won't, she does. Did not. Lady, I'm sorry, whispered the boy. Mm-hmm. Your face is dirty. I got a great mind to wash your face for you. Ain't you got nobody at home to tell you to wash your face? No. Why is that the case? Then it will get washed this evening, said the large woman, starting up the street, dragging the frightened boy behind her. He looked as if he were 14 or 15, frail and willow wild in tennis shoes and blue jeans. The woman said, You ought to be my son. I would teach you right from wrong. Least I can do right now is to wash your face. Are you hungry? No, said the bean dragged boy. I just want you to turn me loose. What you want is not what you can get, and that's a plot. Was I bothering you when I turned that corner? Asked the woman. No, but you put yourself in contact with me, said the woman. If you think that that contact is going to last a while, you got another thought coming. When I get through with you, sir, you are going to remember Mrs. Luella Bates Washington Jones. Sweat popped out on the boy's face, and he began to struggle. Mrs. Jones stopped, jerked him round in front of her, put a half Nelson about his neck, and continued to drag him up the street. And when she got to her door, she dragged the boy inside, down a hall, and into a large kitchenette furnished room at the rear of the house. She switched the light and left the door open. The boy could hear other roomers laughing and talking in the large house. Some of their doors were open too, so he knew he and the woman were not alone. The woman still had him by the neck in the middle of the room. I'm going to not take care of this page. I'd like to see what you guys do with it. But let's take a moment, pause the video, and I'd like you to try. All right. First things first, we are at her house now, right? So we can start there. All right. Go ahead and pause it. Do, 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 do. End of pause. She said, What is your name? Roger, answered the boy. Then Roger, you go to that sink and wash your face, said the woman, whereupon she turned him loose at last. Roger looked at the door, looked at the woman, looked at the door, and went to the sink. My question has got to be, why did you not run for it? Let the water run right until it gets warm, she said. Here's a clean towel. You going to take me to jail? Asked the boy, bending over the sink. Not with that face. I would not take you nowhere, said the woman, sipping coffee. Here I am trying to get home to cook me a bite to eat, and you snatch my pocketbook. Maybe you ain't been to your supper either, late as it be, have you? There's nobody home at my house, said the boy. Now I'm starting to feel sorry for this dude. Dirty face, empty house. All right, I'm thinking more about theme right now than I'm thinking about plot. I'm thinking, am I supposed to learn something about this young man's poor decision making? Am I supposed to learn something about this young man's poor decision making? Then we'll eat, said the woman. I believe you're hungry, or been hungry, to try to snatch my pocketbook. Take a look at this picture real quick. I wonder what this picture has to do with this page. Look, he's looking in the mirror. He sees a younger version of himself. I believe you're hungry. I've been hungry to try to snatch my pocketbook. I wanted a pair of blue suede shoes, said the boy. Well, you didn't have to snatch my pocketbook to get some suede shoes, said Mrs. Luella Bates Washington Jones. You could have asked me, ma'am. The water dripping from his face, the boy looked at her. There was a long pause, a very long pause. And after he dried his face and not knowing what else to do, dried it again, and the boy turned around, wondering what next. The door was open, and he could make a dash for it down the hall. He could run, 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 run. The woman was sitting on the daybed, and after a while she said, I were young once, and I wanted things I could not get. Now I'm wondering, what dialect is this? Instead of I was young once, I were young once, right? Almost making it sound like it's in the subjunctive. And I know the awesome Langston Hughes knows the difference, so he puts it in quotes. So maybe it's something called dialect, Dialect. There was another long pause. The boy's mouth opened, then he frowned, not knowing he frowned. There was another long pause. The boy's mouth opened, then he frowned, not knowing he frowned. The woman said, You thought I was going to say but, didn't you? You thought I was going to say, but I didn't snatch people's pocketbooks. Well, I wasn't going to say that. Pause. So what was her past like, I wonder? Silence. I've done things too which I would not tell you, son. Neither tell God if you didn't already know. Everybody's got something in common. So you sit down while I fix us something to eat. You might run that comb through your hair so you'll look presentable. In another corner of the room, behind a screen, was a gas plate and an ice box. Mrs. Jones got up and went behind the screen. The woman did not watch the boy to see if he was going to run now. Why is that? I wonder why. Nor did she watch her purse, which she left behind her on the daybed. But the boy took care to sit on the far side of the room, away from her purse, where he thought she could easily see him out of the corner of her eye if she wanted to. He did not trust the woman not to trust him, and he did not want to be mistrusted. Now, another question you might ask, what's this a picture of, and what does it have to do with the story right now? All right? We should be thinking of theme again. The theme of trust. The theme of our past. Right? She's got a past, maybe similar to Roger's. Do you need something to go to the store? Asked the boy. Maybe to get some milk or something? Don't believe I do, said the woman, unless you just want sweet milk yourself. I was going to make cocoa out of this canned milk I got here. That will be fine, said the boy. She heated some lima beans and ham she had in the icebox, made the cocoa, and set the table. The woman did not ask the boy anything about where he lived or his folks or anything that would embarrass him, right? Why would that stuff embarrass him, I wonder? Something to think on. Instead, as they ate, she told him about her job in a hotel beauty shop that stayed open late, what the work was like, and how all kinds of women came in and out, blondes, redheads, and Spanish, and she cut him half of her 10-cent cake. Eat more, son, she said. When they were finished eating, she got up and said, now here, take this $10 and buy yourself some blue suede shoes, and next time, do not make the mistake of latching onto my pocketbook nor anybody else's. I wonder why, for a moment, why these two bits of dialogue are in italics. Because shoes got by devilish ways will burn your feet. Oh, I love that. I got to get my rest now, but from here on in, son, I hope you will behave yourself. She led him down the hall to the front door and opened it. Good night. Behave yourself, boy, she said, looking out into the street. The boy wanted to say something else other than thank you, ma'am. Oh, the title of the story. What's that something else? I wonder what he wanted to say. I wonder if it has anything to do with theme. Right? So where was the climax of the story? When the old woman decided that she trusted him, or when he trusted the old woman? Maybe the climax was here, and the resolution was here and here. Thank you, ma'am, to Mrs. Luella Bates Washington Jones, but although his lips moved, he couldn't even say that as he turned at the foot of the barren stoop and looked up at the large woman in the door. Then she shut the door. Now, you go back through the story on your own, and your job is to pick out which parts of the story are going to help you answer this prompt up here. That'll be the part 2 of the video.